Thanks to 80,000 Hours for supporting this SciShow video. 80,000 Hours is a nonprofit that aims to help people have a positive impact with their career. You can start planning a career that helps solve the most pressing problems in the world at 80,000hours.org/SciShow. Developing vaccines for humans is hard enough. Imagine trying to do so for a tiny creature with a totally different kind of immune system. Well, that's what scientists set out to do for the honeybee. Let's start with the obvious. Honeybees are a critical part of our food system. Not only do they pollinate a huge percentage of plants that we eat, but they also make honey, which is delicious. Unfortunately, they are also threatened for a lot of reasons, ranging from disease to pesticides to just run-of-the-mill climate change. And there's one threat in particular that's a bit of a vintage throwback with a modern solution. The bacteria Pentobacillus larvae is a longtime foe of the honeybees. It causes American Foulbrood infection, also called AFB, which can spread quickly through honeybee hives. Interestingly, AFB only affects larval honeybees in their first few days of life. The bacterial spores get fed to the larvae by nurse bees, where they multiply inside the larvae, killing them from the inside out. The dead larvae turn dark brown, and the entire hive takes on a nasty smell, giving the infection its name. The bacterial spores can easily spread throughout the hive, including the honey, as well as between hives and into the surrounding ecosystem as the bees come and go during foraging. And these spores can remain viable in the ecosystem for decades. So even if you get rid of all the infected bees, new hives brought to that same area are at risk. There are a few available ways to treat hives once the infection has been detected. The most effective course of action is burning the hives with the bees inside. And while it definitely gets rid of the bacteria, it isn't exactly great news for all those bees. A less scorched earth option is antibiotics, which can be useful for AFB. But in many countries, giving livestock antibiotics to prevent disease is illegal, due to the growing concerns over antibiotic resistance. So most of the time, you can only give your bees antibiotics after the infection is detected. And when you're dealing with a bacteria like Pentobacillus, that can be too little, too late. The frustrating part is that this isn't the first time beekeepers and their colonies have been plagued by AFB. Historically, it was one of the most dreaded honeybee diseases. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, AFB was a massive problem in the United States, costing beekeepers thousands of dollars in livestock loss. Very strict state-level inspections and hive sanitation regulations helped to finally bring infection levels in check in the 1920s. Unfortunately, after decades of low infection levels, some states relaxed these rules. That, in combination with an increase in commercial beekeeping nationwide, has led to AFB infections being on the rise again. And regulations in one state can affect bees everywhere, since honeybees are shipped to different locations based on seasonality and need, which means that AFB can be hard to prevent when regulations vary from one state to the next. Which is why having a vaccine against AFB is such a great idea. This wouldn't be the first time we've immunized the animals within our agricultural system. Vaccines are used on lots of commercial livestock, like cows, chickens, and even fish, to protect them against all kinds of infections. We're so good at immunizing animals that one of only 2 diseases that we've ever eradicated was one found in cattle and their relatives. But unfortunately, giving vaccines to insects isn't as simple as it is for other animals because of how our immune systems differ. See, vertebrates have 2 kinds of immune systems. One is called an adaptive system, which makes antibodies to help attack a pathogen we've been exposed to before to try to prevent us from getting the same infection twice. The other is an innate system, which reacts to pathogens when it detects them, but doesn't make antibodies to prevent reinfections. And in vertebrates, vaccines work by making the body produce those antibodies by exposing us to a modified version of an inactive pathogen to teach the immune system what to react to next time around. But insect immune systems don't work the same way vertebrate immune systems do. They only have that innate immune system. So while they can react to pathogens, their immune system doesn't remember past foes. That means honeybees can't be vaccinated in exactly the same way vertebrates can, since their immune systems don't learn, they just react. But new research shows that insects can protect the next generation against infection by priming their offspring using pieces of the pathogen itself. It's similar to the way breastfeeding vaccinating in humans helps pass along antibodies to the infant through milk. But instead of antibodies, insects pass along the pathogen instead. Little pieces of the pathogen cell wall get incorporated into their fat body, which is similar to the vertebrate liver. Then these pathogen bits get incorporated into the developing egg. So each larva has already been mounting an immune defense that can work against AFB, which means that if the real deal shows up, they're better prepared to fight it off. And it turns out that vaccinating honeybees is a really simple process. You don't need lots of tiny needles or itty-bitty band-aids. In fact, you only need to give the vaccine to one bee, the queen. All the researchers had to do was mix the inactivated bacteria into the queen's dinner. When she ate it, eggs that she laid afterward received a little bit of the pathogen and got a head start on that immune response. In the trials, queens were acquired from local breeders and fed the vaccine for 8 days in a row to ensure successful vaccination. They then were released into small hives to produce larvae. The larvae were brought to the lab and infected with pentabacillus before they reached 36 hours old. At the end of the experiment, the researchers found that vaccinating queens increased AFB survival rate by 30 to 50% when compared to larvae from unvaccinated queens. Not only was this the first vaccine ever developed for insects, but having the ability to vaccinate one bee and improve the health of the entire colony is pretty amazing. And this vaccine's success in lab trials paves the way for future honeybee vaccines. Because AFB is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the threats facing honeybees today. This vaccine is the first step in the right direction for keeping them around for decades to come, which I think is just the bee's knees. While we're out here taking first steps, 80,000 Hours is here for you if you want to take the first step toward a new job that really makes a difference in the world. 80,000 Hours is a nonprofit that helps you find a fulfilling job and make a positive impact with your career. You can start by reading their blog posts and listening to their podcast on different global problems and careers that help solve them. Topics range from population ethics to information security and artificial intelligence systems. Then, once you're ready to make some moves, you can access their curated high-impact career postings for free through their job board. For a free copy of the 80,000 Hours in-depth career guide, click the link in the description down below or go to 80,000hours.org/SciShow. While you're there, you can sign up for their newsletter full of updates on their research and job opportunities. And just to be clear, everything they provide is always free. Their only aim is to help you find a fulfilling, impactful career. Thanks for watching this SciShow video, and thanks to 80,000 Hours for supporting it.